Our next speaker is Adrienne Tack. Her chosen charity is Global Giving, which will be featured on our Discord at a later time. Her favorite cartoon is Hey Arnold, which I kind of love. It taught me the word mouth breather. So that's just a fun fact from me. Uh, and her talk today is called Embrace the Wasp Sting, Why Failure Helps Your Team. So everyone, please help me welcome Adrienne Tack.
Hi, everyone. Just as Katie mentioned, I'm Adrienne Tack, and today I'd like to talk to you about embracing the wasp sting. So let's get started. In software development, there are a lot of reasons why we could possibly run into failure, just like in Animal Crossing. Sometimes you anticipate them, sometimes you don't. For me, I certainly did not anticipate the first wasp sting that I encountered, as this is my first time playing Animal Crossing. But after a couple hours or days or addicted weekends playing this game, I've learned a couple things that I found are pretty good parallels to how we should deal with failure in real life. So, I want to talk to you about embracing that wasp sting and why failure can really help your team. That's me. I'm a developer advocate at MongoDB, and we'll continue. So I want to ask everyone, as you're thinking about this, as we're going through this now, specifically in a software development context or a DevOps context, whatever position that you're in, what do we fear? What is it that makes us do a really, really cold chill and makes us go, ugh, I don't like this? And as we start to go, or as I started to go through Animal Crossing, there were lots of things that made me really, really scared and fearful. There are things like tarantulas, which took me a very long time to even muster up the courage to not only understand how to catch it, that it was actually possible to catch it, but that you could actually, do it in the right way. There are things like wasps, which are kind of the subject of my talk today, but it's also a frightening experience when you get stung the first time, especially if you don't know what to do and don't anticipate it. Maybe it's these things. These were certainly, maybe they're not feared anymore, but more annoyed at this point. You get really aggravated and you're just like, really? And maybe it's this guy. All of these things are absolutely valid things to be afraid of, but I think there's something that's much more scary. I think there's something that is worse for us. And what I've found, especially in my experience, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, is that this is our biggest fear: failure, failing builds, breaking production, being the one at fault. These are the things that, even in the context of other industries, breaking something is really, really scary. And it's pretty obvious why we would fear something like this. But let's go a deep further. Why do we fear this failure? Well, to start, failure is super unpleasant. I mean, just like getting stung, failure is not a fun time. And when we do encounter these kinds of failures, it's really a blow to our ego and the professional persona that we try to portray. Especially for underrepresented minorities in tech, failure really heightens those feelings of imposter syndrome and it just makes us feel like we don't belong. So it's certainly a valid reason of why we would fear failure. Another reason that we feel failure so much is that it makes us feel ashamed or insecure or super embarrassed. So, just like I learned, the visible swollen eye that I have is, everybody can see it. And Sometimes our failures can feel that way, like the whole world is scrutinizing our mistake, reminding us of what we have done wrong. And it's the same thing when we see a failed build, or we see that 404 page, or we get those console errors, or we check the debug logs and it's something stupid or something small. It's a clear reminder that we did something wrong, and that's something that we usually don't want to deal with. And lastly, at the extreme level, failure can be costly. If safeguards aren't in place yet, failures can really, really be exacerbated in a really bad way. As an example, there's a casino here, one that I won't mention, that actually got fined because they were saving their credit card information in a plain text access database. The fine was somewhere around 250 million bucks, and that's a pretty clear example of how a mistake, something like that, can be really, really bad and really costly. And probably the most extreme example is if you've seen that famous study from Fast Company, it's stated that if Amazon increased their page load by even a second, that could result in them losing 1.6 billion in revenue per year. That is extremely scary. And that, again, these are all super valid reasons to be afraid of failure. They have really tangible consequences, and they're very, very hard to just not think about. But I want to ask you, what if we look at failure in a different way? These are all things that happen, and I'm not saying that, we encourage failure or we pretend that it's not there, but I want to ask you to kind of think, what if we viewed it in a different light? And there are a couple of perspectives that I'd like to share with you that you may start to consider. The first is failure is a chance to collaborate. When I first got stung, I thought, this is my life now. I just have to forever play with a swollen eye. And I only found my solution once I actually talked to Dizzy. He not only empathized with me because he's such a sweetheart, but he also let me know two really important things: that my swollen eye will heal with time, or it could actually go away with some medicine. Again, I'm a first time Animal Crossing player and I've obviously never encountered this. So I just kept going and playing. But now I knew that there was a solution to my problem. It was medicine. And it's this kind of collaboration that I think can turn failure into something good. And in the same fashion, when I broke my build and I just, the first instinct I had was to try and fix it myself. I wanted to maybe, hopefully find the problem, redeploy it, and get that failure status to disappear so that I could save face. But I was not able to do that. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out the problem and I couldn't do it. I needed to ask for help. And as I asked for help, just like I ask my random villagers or all my villagers to see, I talked to Dizzy and he helped me out. So I said, maybe if I talk to these other villagers, I'll get some more information or I'll find out something new. And just like I reached out to my colleagues, they saw the issue right away. Nate gave me some medicine right here and he was able to help me immediately. And he even gave me some really great advice. He says, it's pretty good to carry some medicine around just in case you get stung so that you can fix it if you do. And, I think of that as the same parallel to when I talked with my colleagues and reached out for help. They not only saw the issue right away, but they also took the time to go through the build pipeline in a broken state and was able to help me with their stories, with their previous issues, with their workarounds and their similar mistakes. And now we had, helped each other, which is super, super helpful. Imagine if we approached failure this way. Could you think about how transformative that would be to a team? The team dynamic would be so much more positive and issues could be resolved much quicker. Just like I got my medicine here, I could have been walking around continuing to scare people with my face, or waiting until I could buy some medicine. But no, now I actually had some because I decided to reach out and talked to some of my villagers. And I think the same kind of benefits happen when we talk to our colleagues, cross over departments, talk to senior engineers, talk to people outside of our own little silos. If we are still in silos, there's always somebody that has something to share and someone that could possibly help us with the issue that we're having. So now with this newfound knowledge that I've had from Dizzy and Phoebe and Nate, I felt super free. Previously, shaking these trees would give me major anxiety. I didn't know that there was a solution to this before, but now that I did, I shook those trees like nobody's business. And just like I had taken the time to talk about the intricacies of our build pipeline, I also didn't feel worried about breaking it again. It was really, really helpful to set that stage. And now, anytime I had another problem, I wasn't afraid to reach out and ask for help. This goes hand in hand with another perspective that I think failure can be viewed as. Failure is absolutely a learning opportunity. So at this point, I realized that every time I got stung, I would have access to this wasp nest. And I thought to myself, Animal Crossing seems to imply that you can craft with pretty much anything. So I picked it up. And in keeping with our first perspective of collaboration, I kept speaking to more of my villagers while I had this in my backpack. And this is where the second perspective became really, really helpful. When I spoke to Mira, which is one of my original villagers, I learned my first valuable lesson that there's actually a recipe for medicine. Awesome. Before this, I didn't know. Like I said, I would just kind of either buy medicine, or every time I got stung, I would talk to all the villagers and kind of hope that somebody would give me some medicine. But up until that point, that was all I had to fix this solution. Now I had one that I could do myself. So I'm crafting this medicine. I have another tool in my toolbox and I'm feeling really, really good about it. Now I have something that can help me in the future. Now I have a tool that I know I can use to help me before I possibly reach out. And it was just much more freeing to know that I had something to work with, a remedy that I could fix myself. And the second thing that I learned was that, well, you can actually catch those dang wasps. I did not know that. And so as I started excitedly mashing my A button when I triggered a wasp nest to fall, I found that I actually caught it in time. I had my net, luckily, and it was out, and I caught a wasp. And that was really awesome. And I want you to think about that. I want you to think, how many things can you think of right now are things that you only learned because of something going wrong? I know that when I started my job here at MongoDB, there was a lab that I was doing, and I was setting up my first sharded cluster. And while I was doing this, I was running into an issue with a validation script. And of course, as always, the error I was getting didn't make sense. It didn't make sense because I'm pretty sure I followed all of the steps to the T, that I was doing it correctly, but I would get the same dang error. It was 0 documents imported. Please be sure you have all imported documents. I'm like, what? I did that already. But the thing is, this is the error that made me learn the intricacies of sharding down to the debugging depths that I have never would have gone through if I had just had it work the first time, if it had just gone through the happy path. Oh no, for this thing, I dumped the data, I gracefully shut down and restarted Mongo daemons, and I also learned the correct order to do those. I re-imported my data, I learned a bunch of new status check commands, I learned all of the shortened flags and parameters for those commands. I learned all of that. And I only learned it because I came across this error. even throughout all of this, actually still didn't solve that thing. Whenever I would run the validation script afterward, it would still come back with an error. So I just said, okay, I am at my wit's end. I'm going to go to bed. Hopefully, this works in the morning because I don't know what else I did. I did it, I followed step by step. I gave it a rest. I came back to it in the morning. And just for kicks, before I restarted everything again, I tried the validation script and this time it actually worked. And what I learned from that was that the sharding processes that I was trying to do actually took some time. So everything I did was actually correct. Just when I ran the validation script, I was running it too early. And that's why I would come up with that erroneous error. So I clearly just didn't give that sharded cluster enough time to do its thing. But, uh, again, without that, I never would have learned all about sharded clusters without encountering that error. So, for all of these things that I have just said, it is so applicable to everything that we encounter in software development. When we run into an issue, when we have possibly a production issue, when is the time that we only start really going down into the roots or discovering some bug that we may not have seen before? It's only when these kinds of issues and problems and failures occur. And I think that's super, super important and super valuable. Now, all of these things are great. And, it's very, very easy to see how failure can become learning opportunities. And it's really nice to think about why failure should be chances for collaboration. But for all of this to work, the entire team and organization needs to be on board with the fact that failure needs to be accepted. What I mean by this is that, if you bring down prod, you're not going to throw a pizza party because you brought down prod. What I'm saying is everyone needs to feel safe to fail. They need to be okay. They need to understand that failure is not the end of things, that it's not meaning that you're going to lose your job or you're going to get demoted or you're going to get made fun of. If all of these things, if these new perspectives are to work, failure needs to be accepted in the entire organization. I mean, imagine your colleagues need to truly feel like they can ask for help or reach out when they make a mistake. If they don't feel that way, they're not going to reach out to you. If you foster an environment where it's more blame game versus actually being collaborative and helpful, you're not going to get to that collaborative state. You're not going to get those opportunities to turn those failures into collaboration possibilities. And in the same way, the whole organization needs to encourage a learning mindset, and it needs to happen at every level because failure can only be viewed as learning opportunities if they don't feel like they're going to be strikes on their professional record. All of this can only work if everybody is in it together and everyone has a collective goal. I think a great example of how we should approach failure is actually how Animal Crossing deals with failure. So here I am. I already have one swollen eye, and oh, uh-oh, I just triggered another wasp nest. And at this point, I'm like, oh, great. Is this game over? I'm not going to be able to play anymore. Great. But what happens in Animal Crossing? The worst that happens is I get sent back to my home and I still have only one swollen eye, and that's it. I mean, it might be a little inconvenient because that was all the way at the other side of my island, but that's really the only penalty that I encounter with having two wasp stings in a row. And what this means is that as I learned this while playing the game, I wasn't so afraid of those wasps anymore. Not only did I have the tools now and the knowledge because I spoke with my villagers and knew that medicine was the solution to the problem, I knew that I could also make my own medicine and I could also catch the wasp just in time. And if those things didn't help catch the problem before they started, at the very worst, I would just get sent back to my home. And that is a very, very, very good environment, one that certainly fosters the fact that failure doesn't always have to be something that's so negative and so terrible and the end of all things. It can be an environment where you can continue to learn, continue to grow, and continue to progress. And that's exactly what I did in on my island. So thank you. Thank you for embracing the wasp sting. You all earn an achievement. This took me way longer than it needed to create this custom thing, but fear of failure is normal. This is the one thing I would like you all to leave with. If there's one thing you leave with today, it's normal, but it doesn't have to be. And hopefully, by listening to these alternative perspectives, you can consider failure in a new light. So hopefully you can bring them to your organization or even start with just your team and reap the benefits of what seeing failure in a new light can be. So salamat, that means thank you in Tagalog. And I am super, super thankful to Austin, Katie, for all the sponsors. Thank you so much for hosting this wonderful event. I am so, so happy that I got to be a part of this. And this is the cutest thing ever. So thank you so much. And I will go check the questions now.
Thank you, Adrienne. That was so good. It was, everyone is just dying for your videos and your presentation in general. And really this like analogy could not be better. So I'll give you, we have time for a couple questions. So I'm gonna hit you with one if that's okay.
Sure.
How would you suggest embracing failure in an environment that doesn't encourage this type of philosophy?
Yes. So that's always the hardest part, right? Is getting everybody on board. I think it starts with first testing it out with your team and then maybe finding an ally that is at either a position of power or management, someone who actually has some sort of influence on maybe the higher levels of management that could show why this kind of environment is working. This is actually very similar to something I encountered where, our team was pretty much on point. Like we worked with each other, we're collaborative, nobody was stepping on each other's toes, no one was blaming each other. But outside of our own department, it wasn't so. And obviously that made it very difficult to, work with the rest of our company. When one group is working, but the rest is an array that's not working for the whole organization. So we kind of led by example and showed, shared with the other teams and we shared with management some concrete benefits of how this was helpful. So, for example, we showed that by being this collaborative and having a plan for attacking, say, a prod issue altogether, kind of similar in how Tori mentioned mob programming, we would all kind of drop everything and work on a production issue together. And by doing this and not blaming anybody and not saying, oh, it was your code that broke it or caused this bug, we were able to fix things much faster. And obviously, management likes that. If you're able to fix things and please the client much faster, and they see those kinds of benefits, I think they're more likely to adopt it. And even if it's at a slow rate, it's still progress to kind of sway them over to that side.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think we'll do one more, if that's okay.
Sure.
What important things do you need to learn to do after you fail? Do you think about why it happened and maybe try to learn or teach someone else? How do you log things for future folks?
Absolutely. I think if it's a personal thing, so kind of like with the build story that I shared, I did not want that to happen again, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think documenting everything, the whys of what happened certainly helped me. And also keeping track of the mechanisms to check what went wrong, specifically in that scenario. So the next time, if something happened like that, I know, oh, I'm supposed to go in these particular build logs because this has more informative errors than, say, like the overview page on the Azure DevOps portal, for example. Mm-hmm. And those kinds of notes are things that I would want to know for myself. In terms of a group setting, again, our team was super awesome. I loved our team. My last job, my job here is good too. Not saying you guys are terrible, but the retros that we did were great. We had 3 columns. I'm sure it's similar to most people who follow agile practices, but we had a what went well, what didn't go well, what can we improve, and we really stuck to the issues at hand. We never put anything negative. Like we never said, oh, Adrian broke the build last week and that went bad. No, we focused on the build went bad or the build broke, but it was because of this particular issue. But I think a really great parallel or contrast to that is that in these retros, we actually put good things on the what went well for our sprint. So like if it was somebody's birthday, we said, oh, it was Adrian's birthday and we all got cupcakes this week.
Right.
Those kinds of things really help build camaraderie with everybody. And I think in my experience helps build more trust in the team so that you are not so scared to fail in front of them and can really reach out to them when you make a mistake. You're all in it together.
Yeah. There are definitely more questions, but I want to give you the freedom to be thoughtful about the other ones and to apply or respond to them in good time. They're excellent questions. So
absolutely. I'll check them out on the Discord.
I would love for everyone to give a very enthusiastic thank you to Adrian. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
Whee!
thanks, everyone.
Yay.
Yay.
All right. Sometimes I forget. And I say sometimes, every time I forget. I'm at the podium. I'm a little person.